Why does Bruno Fernandes play so much better for Portugal than he does Manchester United? You see, in just 4 Nations League games this season for his country, Bruno Fernandes has managed to secure himself an impressive 3 goal contributions. Whereas for Manchester United in the Premier League, he's played 7 games this season and actually only grabbed himself 1 goal contribution. And we know that isn't good enough. Bruno Fernandes himself knows that that isn't good enough. He was speaking about it in a press conference recently, and he almost hinted towards the fact that the problem may be the system, or perhaps more, the dynamic that he plays in with his national team compared to his club. So what is the difference? Let's take a look. So when we look at Portugal and Manchester United from a stylistic point of view, we get 2 teams that play a very different brand of football, a completely different approach to the game. Starting off with possession, for example, Portugal averaged 62.8% possession this season, whereas for Manchester United it's just 52.6%. This also leads to a massive difference in the number of passes that both teams are attempting but also completing. Portugal on average complete 573 passes per game, whereas for Manchester United it's only 427. That's nearly a swing of 150 passes in just one game. That's a big difference. But the important thing is also the pass completion rate. In this particular Nations League campaign so far, Portugal have averaged a pass completion rate of 91.8%, whereas Manchester United in the Premier League is just 85.1%. So you can see that Bruno is playing in 2 very different systems, 2 very different dynamics. For Manchester United, it's less about controlling the ball, it's more about getting the ball forward quickly, a bit more transitional, whereas for Portugal, it's very slow. It's a very controlled build-up approach. It's a team that wants to control and dominate the ball, and that is where Bruno Fernandes seems to be performing better, which is actually quite interesting because a lot of people seem to make the claim that Bruno can't play in a possession team. For me, that is incorrect, and his performances for Portugal prove that. For Portugal, he is turning in consistent, impressive performances. One of the problems for me, for Bruno, at Manchester United, is that the team is too direct. The possession is too chaotic. We need to slow it down. Give Bruno more touches in a more controlled team, and he's going to create more chances. But there is also an individual role difference here as well. So when it comes to the individual role of Bruno Fernandes, he is once again given a very different environment at United to what he is with Portugal. For Manchester United this season, if we just take the games that he has played in midfield in the Premier League, so we remove the first 2 games of the season, Bruno Fernandes' average position has been on the right side of midfield for 80% of games so far this season. Whereas if we go to his role for Portugal, and again look at his games in midfield, 75% of his games he has actually played on the left side of the centre of midfield. So for Manchester United, Bruno Fernandes' average position is over here somewhere. He is operating in this sort of zone, whereas for Portugal, it is actually over here. Now, to a lot of people, this will mean absolutely nothing. You know, he's just shifted 20 yards across the pitch. It's not that big a deal. But it actually is. When you are a right-footed player and you receive the ball on the right-hand side compared to the left-hand side, it's a different dynamic. What you can do with the ball is very different. The angles you are working with, the way you receive the ball, everything completely changes. Now, the weird thing here for Manchester United is why are we doing it in the first place? Because if you go back through Bruno Fernandes' successful seasons with United, most of the time he is averaging his touches on the left side of the pitch. So the question is, why does the left side suit Bruno more than the right hand side? Well, actually, it's fairly simple. We've got to remember Bruno Fernandes is a right-footed player. He likes to do most of the work with his right foot. In fact, his work with the left foot doesn't happen too often. So when you play on the right hand side and you want to pass with your right foot, chances are that means a lot of the time, of course not always, but a lot of the time you're going to be passing towards the right. So if you are in the right midfield position, you are passing to your right, that very much means you are moving the ball out wide towards the wing. You are more likely to play outside of an opposition shape. Let's say the opposition get narrow and compact like this, you're playing outside the shape, chances are you are going to be passing to your winger on a more regular basis. Of course, you do still have the potential to shape crosses into the box, but again, it's fairly predictable. With a right footer on the right hand side, it's a little bit predictable. They're going to play wide or they're going to play into the box. Suddenly, when we put Bruno Fernandes on the left hand side, things are a little bit different. Because now when Bruno takes that first touch and gets the ball to the right side, the pitch opens up for him. Previously, he was kind of restricted if he wanted to play heavy right-footed to this side of the pitch, this little zone here. Whereas when we put him on the left, his zone that he can pass to suddenly increases massively. And the important thing here for me, and also for the performances of Manchester United, is that he is now passing in field. Manchester United this season have lacked centralised progression. We've spoken about that quite a lot. an inability to move the ball forward through the middle. United look alright out wide. The ability to combine and create chances is there. In the middle of the pitch, United are very stodgy. Perhaps that is because we don't have enough players wanting to play through the middle of the pitch. If Bruno Fernandes was to be moved back to the left side of midfield, where he has played before, I'm pretty confident he would bring that. And the reason I'm confident is because I decided to go back and watch every single assist from Bruno Fernandes in his Manchester United career. I will leave a link to this video in the description down below, so go check it out if you want to see the assists as well. Something I really noticed was that when he's on the left-hand side, it seems to be more of a creative spark, more of those special moments, more of those special passes, you know, the passes which separate Bruno Fernandes from other footballers. And this is really the benefit. So he receives the ball on the left-hand side of midfield, and the first thing he's able to do is shift the ball towards his right foot. So instantly, his first touch has moved him inside the pitch. And of course, that gives him time to get his head up. And we know from these positions, Bruno Fernandes' passing range is just absolutely insane. It's an absolute joke. Now, of course, importantly, Bruno Fernandes can still do slightly more traditional like crosses from these positions as well. Again, here, left side of midfield, he's getting his head up. But he does have the ability to play the trivela, the outside of the right boot, cross into the box. I'm not normally a massive fan of these sorts of crosses because I think it overcomplicates things a little bit. But Bruno Fernandes is one of those players that can do it, and do it to a high level. And again, it works for him from the left side of the pitch. Again, here, receiving the ball deep in midfield, but towards the left-hand side. And he's going to take that first touch across his body. He gets the ball across his body, and it opens everything up for him. Suddenly, everything is in front of him. He's got a picture in front of him. He can work from there, especially when he is in this deeper role, and he can get time on the ball. People seem to think that for Portugal, for example, he plays as a 10 super high just off the striker. And that's what he always used to do for United as well. And that's why he was so brilliant. But it's not necessarily true. I do think he is brilliant high up the pitch. But he has always been more than capable of dropping deep and playing these passes. He's always done it for United. It's just that now it's not working on the right, people are critical of it. But we know when he's got time in these areas, his passing range is an absolute joke. He sees passes which other players can't see, and then has the ability to match it as well, to find the actual pass itself. The weight of pass is fantastic. Ronaldo scored a lot of goals because of that, because of Bruno Fernandes. And then you've got the combination play as well. Again, in this left half space, on the left side of the penalty area, this is him high up the pitch, interchanging, linking play with Marcus Rashford on this occasion. Bruno Fernandes' best football, in my opinion, comes from the left side. So, does that mean Bruno has to play on the left side and that he cannot play on the right side at all? No, that would be silly to say. Bruno Fernandes is still a fantastic footballer, no matter where on the pitch he plays. He's just that type of player. He will perform no matter what role you put him into. What I noticed when going through all of those assists during his career at United so far was that from the right-hand side, we tend to be seeing more transitional assists. A lot of them are quite direct long balls over the top, but there was also a lot of square passes as well. There were a lot of situations where he was in this sort of position here and playing the ball square across the box for someone to finish like this. Again, check out the video in the description so you can go see all these assists. You will notice from the right-hand side, there were a lot of square assists playing across the box. And again, if you look at the Manchester United makeup at the moment, the players we've got, that doesn't really work because Xerxes isn't a player that likes to bomb into these positions around the penalty spot all the time. He doesn't do it. He likes to drop deep and link the play. Rashford is playing quite a wide role for United at the moment. He's not getting into those positions. Kobbie Mainoo doesn't really get up there. Ugarte doesn't. Casemiro doesn't. So I think for Bruno Fernandes, playing on the right-hand side, the assists that we've seen him getting in the past aren't going to happen in the current setup. They aren't going to happen. So for me right now, the solution for Manchester United to get more out of Bruno is to move him to the left side of midfield and swap him with Kobbie Mainoo. Not only does this potentially get more out of Bruno Fernandes, I actually think it makes us a more balanced team in general. Anyway, I think it improves us with Bruno playing on the left-hand side. For example, defensively, when we have Kobbie Mainoo and Rashford on the left, you could argue we lack intensity out of possession. Whereas on the right-hand side, we've got a lot of intensity. If we swap Bruno and Kobbie, we're balancing it out a little bit more. Amad's intensity on this side, Bruno's on this side, it gives us a nicer balance. In terms of in possession, suddenly there is a player on the right hand side who can operate in the slightly cuter spaces, who can be press resistant. I think previously we've lacked that on the right hand side. On the left, we've already got it. Lissandro Martinez, Dalot, Shaw when he's fit. I genuinely think that moving Bruno to the left putting Kobe on the right, Ugarte deeper, or Casemiro deeper when Ugate's injured, I think it brings us a nicer balance, and I think you will see performance levels that are closer to what we have seen in previous seasons, where he's been absolutely phenomenal, one of the best creative players in the world, but also performances closer to what he does for Portugal. Now, of course, the other thing that I should mention as well is what we discussed right at the start of the video. Team dynamic. It is one thing changing the role of Bruno. It is another changing the role of the whole team. The team, in my opinion, needs to slow down a little bit. I've said that countless times. We have to play a more measured approach, like what we saw against Crystal Palace the other week. That slow, methodical ball progression. That is what Manchester United need to do. Then you will see the best of Bruno Fernandes. Not when he is playing transitional football, but when he is actually tasked with breaking down deep, stubborn defences. He gets a lot of touches on the ball, he has a bit of time, and he can find those killer passes. That little bit of magic dust, what you need to break down a team. But those are just my thoughts. Those are my opinions on how you get Bruno Fernandes back to his best and why he is better for Portugal than Manchester United. It is because of the side of the pitch that he plays on. It just suits him better. But like I said, those are just my thoughts. It's just my opinions. I want to hear yours in the comments. What is going wrong for Bruno Fernandes this season? Why isn't it quite working for him? And what do you think he does for Portugal so well that he struggles to recreate at Old Trafford? Let me know what you think, but apart from that, we are finished for today. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.